Hey everybody, welcome to the show. On today's show, we're going to be talking about this man here, Sypherpk. Now, before anyone says anything, this is not me bashing on Sypherpk in any way, shape, or form. I have a massive amount of respect for the man. He is an OG. He is an icon for a reason. A lot of his time, a lot of respect for him. Like I have a lot of respect for a lot of the Fortnite creators out there. However, Sypher here has just made a video about all the things wrong with Fortnite. Do I agree with it? Some of it. But I do feel the one thing that's missing is a non-OG's perspective. Because of the fact that everyone who's given their reactions to this video, and there's been a lot of them, and I want to give mine too, a lot of them have been OGs as well. And I do feel that a lot of the opinions in this video are from an OG perspective, which is obvious. It's fair enough, you know, no harm there. But you're not seeing it from an OG, a non-OG's perspective either, which may possibly be a bit different from your own opinion. So I wanted to jump into the conversation and look at this from a non-OG's perspective. I have been playing Fortnite for nearly 4 years now, so I'm only about half an OG. I'm just a G. You know? So we're going to take a look through this video and we're basically going to talk, we're going to have a bit of a discussion. We're going to have a bit of a discussion, but we're going to have some fun because, like I say, mad respect to Sypher. I'm a huge fan of his, huge fan. But we do need a non-OG's opinion on this one now. I feel it's about time we did. So let's get into it, shall we?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sypher.
What's up, Sypher?
Fortnite is missing something.
All right, talk to me, bro.
There has been a lot on my mind about the state of the game over the past few months, and I have a lot to say, so I'm going to be playing this solo match while pretty much just talking about how I feel about where Fortnite is heading.
Let it out, man.
And some of the good things and some of the bad things that is happening in the game right now.
Go for it.
It has been a while since I've done a video like this, because I've been so locked in on the content creation process, giving you guys content that you can watch and taking you out of,
you're doing a great job.
Whatever situation you're in, whatever's on your mind, and
doing
give
a
you
good
some
job,
entertainment. And hopefully, in today's video, we can talk about a game that we all love, we all want to see succeed in a positive but still critical manner.
Very true.
So, Fortnite, in terms of player count, in terms of the numbers, it's actually not in a bad spot right now. The player count of the game is actually super solid. You can look at the live player count, and we have had...
Now, Sypher's actually playing a game now, so you're going to probably hear a lot of Fortnite sounds in the background. So don't just ignore that. Don't worry about it. Pay attention to what's being said.
Had worse times in the past. We're getting OG seasons. We're getting constant updates.
Yep.
They're still putting a good foot forward when it comes to new updates. But the issue is that this game is 33 seasons old. The game's approaching 8 years.
It's hanging in there.
Had 33 seasons of content, and each season of content has had, you know, dozens of updates.
It's hanging in there.
So Fortnite is in a situation right now that not a lot of other games have the problem. Not a lot of other games have this problem. You see, other games, they don't update as often, right? So over the course of like 5 years, another game that is comparable to Fortnite's
side
will have a quarter of the amount of new stuff added to the game that Fortnite has added. But because of how much Fortnite adds so quickly, it keeps the content fresh and exciting. But at the same time, we are now at a point where it feels like all new content added to this game is a remix of a previous concept that already existed. A reskin of a previous gun.
Now, I do agree with this. Yeah, there are the remix skins. Now, I can see from an OG's point of spec from this. You've already got the skins. Why would you want another version of the skins? Why can't they give you something brand new to play with? I get that. That's fair enough. If I was an OG, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. However, if you're not an OG like me, a lot of these skins I was not around to get when they were out. So, unfortunately, they've been locked inside a battle pass. We've not been able to get them, and we've wanted them quite badly, because some of them are actually pretty damn cool. And when they've came back as remix skins, which I do believe are even better than the original. They are the up-to-date, modified, lot more detail, better detail. All the things that were wrong with the first one, they corrected in the second. So, not only are we getting the skins that we were looking for, that we weren't around to get originally, now we're getting a much better version of it. So, I don't see that as a bad thing. Unless you're an OG, because if you've already got the skin, you're probably not going to be that bothered about getting the second one. But if you're not an OG, then you're going to love where we are right now. You know? So, don't know if that's a problem. I think that's a problem only from an OG's perspective. That's why I wanted to chime into this conversation. I do feel a lot of this is coming from an OG point of view, which obviously if you're an OG you're going to get, but you're not taking into consideration the flip side of the coin. That's where I'm here. I'm the flip side of the coin here in this video. So let's continue on.
Previous POI, a previous mechanic, you know? We have the vaults. We've had them plenty of different times before in the past. We have shotguns and ARs and assault rifles and all kinds of different weapons that we have had in the past, but these are quote unquote new, but in reality they're the same, they just look different.
They're new to new players. Maybe not be new for yous, but they're new to new players. You know? And the one thing that you need to keep in mind is if you look at the overall Fortnite player base in its whole, in its entirety, you'll probably find there are more OGs out there, less OGs out there than there are new players that weren't around when these things were out. So Fortnite are clearly catering now for the newer players and less for the OG players. And I'm starting to wonder, is this where this video is coming from? They starting to feel like they're not getting catered for anymore? Is this why we have these videos now? I don't know. I can see where they're coming from. But Fortnite does have to focus on the newer players. Even the people that have only been doing it for, what, 4 or 5 years. They're still new. A lot of these weapons we might not have had a chance to try yet. Back when they were popular, you know? So, yeah, I still don't see that as a problem. Unless you're an OG.
And this is a very unique problem because Fortnite is one of the few games out there that updates as aggressively and as consistently as it has. And something that used to be a huge strength is sort of showing up as a little bit of a weakness in some of these recent updates that they have put in the game.
I have to disagree with that. I'm sorry, Sypher, dude. We love you, respect you, dude. But I gotta say, I don't see that as an issue. Unless you're an OG who's getting sick and tired of seeing the same thing, which is obviously what you're saying here. But from a non-OG's perspective, we've never seen these before. So these, for a lot of these players, these are all brand new mechanics, you know? Brand new things that, okay, they were in the game before, but we didn't get the chance to try these out back then. You know? So you'll probably find that a lot of the newer players are actually enjoying this. And let's be honest here, like I said before, Fortnite's player base is not full of OGs anymore. with all due respect to the OGs, you're not the majority anymore. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. So, Fortnite are now obviously catering and bringing back some of the stuff that worked even better than it was before, or in some cases maybe not. We don't know because we never tried it out back then, so we don't really know. But we're still having fun with it because we're trying it out for the first time. So, still don't see it as a problem, Cypher. Sorry, dude.
Now, I want to give credit where credit is due.
Okay.
The new exotics that they're adding this season, you can tell they're actually trying to think outside of the box of bringing us something that we haven't seen before, with like the Rift launcher and the new Chug Jug and new assault rifles, new shotguns. But even then, when they are trying to bring something new, a lot of these concepts and mechanics of these guns have also existed in the past.
I agree with that. I like what they've done. I love the new launcher, the Rift launcher. Anyone seen my stream? It's a fantastic weapon. Yeah, there may be a different version of it out in the past, but like I say, if you're not an OG, you wouldn't have experienced that. So that's still not a problem for a lot of the player base. So there's nothing wrong with going back and taking a look at old ideas that worked and bringing them back and trying to make them better. Unless you're Disney. Unless you're Disney, But yeah, in Fortnite, in gaming, a remake is very, very different from a movie remake. But let's continue on.
And they are still considered remixes or just rebranding of things that we already had.
You already had. Not us. Like I say, not trying to crap on Sypherpk's parade here, but he's got to see it from the other side of the coin. And that's why I'm here. Showing it from the other side of the coin. All the respect in the world to the man, like I said before. I watch his streams a lot. I listen to what he does. I aspire to be up there with him in the Icon series. But I'm not an OG. I don't share the same opinions as an OG will. And there's a lot of us. So
on the other hand, because it's like, okay, are you asking them to stop updating the game? No. Because on the other hand, when they take huge risks and they make something that really has never been done, we have situations like the car season in Chapter 5.
Now, I just want to say, as far as Chapter 5 is concerned, I think a lot of the OGs had this problem of they got used to playing Fortnite a certain way. Certain tactics worked. That's kind of how they run their channel, and they do the same thing, same type of tactics every time. You can see it very clearly with Ninja. And then when Chapter 5 came in with all the cars, not a lot of them liked the idea of having to change their tactics up. Now, a true good player would be able to adapt, see the problem and adapt. That's what a lot of problem solving is. We look at a problem and adapt to it. I made a video where in Chapter 5 about, people were complaining that if you don't have a car, there's no way of surviving. I did it with no car, no guns, and got to number 2. The last 2 people. So it could be done. Just to prove it could be done. And that all this moaning and bitching that everybody was doing wasn't justified. And I actually enjoyed Chapter 5. I really did. I haven't found a season yet that I haven't enjoyed. But when they do try something new, I like it from the point that it challenges me. It takes me out of my comfort zone and makes me have to reassess what I'm doing and try and come up with another strategy. And I do feel that a lot of OGs did not like that, especially Ninja. He showed that very clear. And all respect to Ninja and all the things he's done in the past. He's also, an icon for a reason. But clearly they did not like the change.
Where a lot of people really were upset because Fortnite tried to go, down a different path with the cars and the attachments and the overpowered vehicles. Half of the community loved it. Half of the community hated it.
I was on the side that loved it. Maybe it's a non-OG thing that makes you love the things that they try. I don't know.
But a lot of people did not like that. They're like, keep it simple. Go with what we know. But what we do know is that when a game...
I think going with what you know sometimes is just playing it safe. And I think the reason Fortnite has been successful is because they don't play it safe. And I think that's why it succeeded, is because it doesn't play it safe. Okay, they're going to do things that work. They're going to do things that don't work. But you do need to try. And I think that's what keeps the game fresh. You're not going to discover new playable items if you're not prepared to design any. So I wouldn't say that was a problem. I think that's more of a positive than anything else.
Game doesn't change. It eventually dies, no matter how good it is. And that's why Fortnite has lived for so long. So what's the solution? What's the answer? Is it all doom and gloom?
Hell no.
Here's the thing. I don't think so.
I really don't
think so. And I think one thing we need to start with is where Fortnite is putting some of its time and effort.
Okay, let's do that.
Fortnite has been putting a lot of effort into creating a metaverse, creating these new modes with ballistics, with Fortnite Lego, with rocket racing, with festival. And they're a big enough company to do these things.
Yeah,
but
true.
There is a little bit of an issue when it comes to the risk involved in these projects.
Okay.
And let me tell you what I'm talking about.
Go for it, man.
For example, the way Fortnite is approaching a lot of the content that they add is they are basically testing if a concept is going to be good. So they gave us Fortnite Ballistics pretty much in a beta form, almost unfinished form with poor matchmaking and still some issues. And then they're deciding, should we invest more time into this concept?
Yeah. Which you would think from a big company point of view, that would be a smart move. I think Disney seems to make the mistake of jumping headfirst into things and putting a lot of money into things that they don't necessarily know is going to be a good idea. And, well, let's look at the recent Snow White situation. In Fortnite, yeah, they are a big enough company to do that. And I do feel if they put all their money and not brought out a beta version, because the beta version is going to be buggy, it's not going to work properly, it's not going to have the proper mechanics. Possibly if they brought out it in its full entire finished version, take that leap of faith, I think a lot of these, like rocket racing, may possibly have survived a bit better than what it did in the past.
Now, in my opinion, Fortnite is big enough of a game and has had enough success to where I don't think they need to be giving us products that are unfinished or beta testing products.
This is what I agree with this.
Is kind of like a substitute to something that already exists. You have Valorant, you have CSGO, and then you have Fortnite Ballistics, which is kind of like a watered down version of, those two games.
I've tried the Ballistics. I think the only thing about Ballistic is just Fortnite in first person mode. That's all it is. I think they shouldn't have brought Ballistic out, but I do feel they should have brought out the first person view option in Battle Royale. I think that would have done much better. Much better. So I do feel that was a bit of a mistake on their part.
But then you have like Minecraft and other survival games But then you have Fortnite Lego, which also in its initial state, and even now, is still considered like a watered down, less content filled, less exciting version of Minecraft.
It is. I'll give it that. However, if you're a Lego fan, I would say it's probably one of the best Lego games out at the moment. You know, if you want to come in and have like a, you know, your own Lego universe that you can just, like a sandbox game, there's not really that many out. And I think Fortnite has definitely provided that. Yeah, it's a bit like Minecraft, but, you know, Minecraft's for Minecraft fans and Lego's for Lego fans. So, I wouldn't say that was a bad thing. I think if you're a Lego fan, it's a win. But I don't feel there's a lot of Lego fans in Fortnite. That's the problem. That's the problem. You know? Anyone who's playing Fortnite is playing with guns and wanting to shoot people. They're not wanting to play with Lego. So
you can do the same comparison with rocket racing and whatnot. And what I'm trying to say is that when Fortnite invests time into these new modes, I feel like they're not leading the charge. They are copying the charge. They're copying the trends that are out there.
I think that, yeah, I would agree with that. Copying the trends that are out there. But it's obviously because they want all types of gamers to come to Fortnite. You know, they want the people that like racing games to come to Fortnite. They want the people that want the building games to come to Fortnite. They want Fortnite to be the main hub for all gaming. And the only way they're going to do that is by doing what they're doing with. But they're not. Problem is, they're not getting the time, the effort, and as Sypher was saying there, they're not getting a finished product from the start to make it popular enough. Case in point with Rocket Racing. I enjoy Rocket Racing, but it does need work. And I think with the right love and care, it could have been a success.
Valorant is a success. We're going to make our version without the twist. That's the weird part. It's like, where's the Fortnite touch? Fortnite Battle Royale became a success because they took the Battle Royale concepts and they added their own touch, which was the build mode and the unique look and feel of Fortnite.
I agree with that. Amazingly enough, I agree with that. However, I was never a fan of builds. If you ever watch my channel, I always do zero build. So you would wonder why someone like myself would... I was actually put off by the game because of the fact that it had building in it. I'm starting to wonder, would I have been an OG if it didn't had build in it? So there is a possibility that I might be sitting here an OG player if it hadn't have had the OG the building mechanic in it, because I'm not a fan of building, not in the slightest. I don't like building in Lego. I don't like building in all this, so Lego's not really my game. But I've never been a building fan in any form of game, even survival games. I don't play a lot of survival games, so I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, because quite honestly, I feel that the building factor in it may have been putting a lot of people off, because, okay, there's a lot of people out there that like building games, but there's a hell of a lot of people out there that don't. You know, a lot of people that don't. And I'm starting to wonder, would Fortnite have got a bigger player base back then if they hadn't have released it now? Build. Tell me what you think in the comments.
And that allowed them to be insane success. The problem is they're not taking that formula and applying it to these new modes. They're not taking that formula and applying it to the updates. It's like we're at a point where we're either just maintaining or we're just putting stuff out to grab some attention but not take any heavy swings. And I don't know the details, and I don't know how much.
think the fact that they're bringing them out in the first place is a bit of a heavy swing in itself. You know? I think that heavy swing is the fact they've released the game in the first place. You know? You think? Maybe? You know? They're obviously not going to get them right from the start. They obviously need the player base to work on those games within Fortnite. But I think if you're looking for a bigger swing than releasing that mode in the game to begin with, I don't think there is much of a bigger swing than that originally. So I don't know about that one.
Time and money is invested into some of these projects, so I can't just be here like, no, you should make a better version of Valorant, or you should make a better Minecraft. But I do feel like the way we are going right now with these new modes, and with where Fortnite is putting, a lot of their effort into, we are making game modes that already exist, but we're not adding the twist that makes Fortnite what it is.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I agree with maybe they're not adding a big twist. But let's be honest, Rocket Racing does have its Fortnite twist. You know? There are obviously car racing games out there where you can drive and flip and do all this kind of stuff. But you're doing it in a Fortnite kind of way, in a Fortnite kind of environment. I think that is the twist. I think we missed the twist, to be honest. So I don't know as much, but I can see where he's coming from.
And obviously you're watching this game and you realize I haven't ran into a single real player yet. That guy might have been real. I'm not too sure if he was or wasn't. But this is also another topic that we cannot ignore anymore.
I hate to say it, but this one I do agree with. However, I understand why they do it as well. There are a lot of modes out there that if 100% of the characters in there are all real players, a lot of people are going to get annihilated. Now, I know what you're saying. All right, just hurry up and get better. That takes time, you know? You don't want to put people off a game because it's too hard, especially younger players who are just starting off in playing gaming. They're not used to control pads. They're not used to this kind of thing. They may quite easily get put off if they're getting annihilated left, right, and center by better players. So I do feel that sometimes the bots do serve a purpose, but not to the level they are right now. When you go in and there's only like 10 players and the rest are bots, round about that, then you've got a problem. Maybe say 80% players, 20% bots at a minimum. That's fine. But not to the extent I feel it's at the now.
Before I get into that, before I get into complaining more, because I'm not trying to complain, I'm trying to give feedback here. I want to address that the last video that I made about the state of Fortnite has actually done a lot of things on that video since then. I'm not saying that they did it because of that video. That video is pretty much just what the community was feeling for the most part, and what I'm seeing as somebody who is involved in the community, who has a big community around Fortnite. Those are not just all my words and my feedback. That's literally what I see you guys talk about in my streams and my comments. So from the last video, hit scan weapons have returned. People were not a big fan of the projectile weapons. Some people are, but I think majority voted to bring back hit scan. It makes sense because that's what most of Fortnite was hit scan for the longest time. And then one of the most popular modes, which is reload, is also hit scan focused.
I have to admit, I prefer the hit scan. You know, it was a lot harder to aim when it didn't have hit scan. So I was all for the hit scan.
So as a result, they brought it back, and it's what a lot of people have been asking for. So that's a huge win.
Yes.
The second thing is, hold up, gonna reset here. The second thing is hackers. Now, I know some of you might disagree, but from what I'm seeing in tournaments, there is a lot less hacking happening in the game, and there's a lot more hula hoops that people have to jump through to hack in Fortnite now.
I'll agree with this one. I'll be honest. I'm on I play on the PlayStation most of the time, so I think it's a lot harder to hack a PlayStation than it is a PC. Don't get me wrong, I play the PC when I'm not streaming. I have a really good PC, so I want to bump up all the graphics and stuff, so I play it on the PC when I'm not. But when I'm streaming, very rarely have I ever seen a hacker on a PlayStation or any other console for that matter. So I think whatever they're doing to get rid of the hackers, they're certainly it's a winning situation in that one.
Which is all really good stuff, because literally the entire state of the game, the entire state of competitive will crumble if hacking is not addressed. And I do think that there's still a lot of room for improvement, but they have actually made, since that video, they ended up suing a hacker. They ended up adding more requirements for you to play tournaments.
Yeah.
Every game out there struggles with hacking, and online games will always have a hacking problem.
Here's the one thing. They're giving hackers a second chance. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea. It's good that they're giving people a second chance. I can see that. I get that. And respect to Fortnite for doing that. But there is a possibility that you're going to get a massive influx of cheaters again. You're going to get a lot of people that have obviously learned their lesson. But you're going to find a lot of people who didn't. And just want to do it again. So, I don't know how I feel about this yet. I think only time will tell how this turns out.
But they're making an effort. The live events and the story, they have stepped up. They have stepped up with the live events. They have stepped up with the story. Is it where it once was? Is the interest from the community there for the story? It's slowly building back up. It's still far away from the peak of Fortnite when a lot of people were actually interested in the story, but they have.
Unfortunately, I wasn't around for the peak of story. I like any form of story in any kind of form it is. As long as it moves some form of the story along and explains what's actually happening in the Fortnite game itself, I'm quite happy with that. Recently, we've had a lot of, like obviously the battle with Daigo, which I thought was cool. We've still got another mini event coming up for the new into Star Wars season. And it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But so far, I do feel they kind of went a little bit. It did go a little bit softer. I have to admit, they did kind of cut back, and I don't think a lot of people like that. Even the newer people didn't. I don't think like that very much. But I think they're getting back on track. So I do agree with Sypher on this one.
Made strides towards improving that, and I think we'll have to see how it ages. But I think over the next year or two, the story content and the live events will just continue to get better.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the Fortnite XP maps and UEFN situation, there's still a lot of room for improvement.
There is,
but at the very least, it's on the roadmap, and they are aware of some of the pain points, like how important XP is for players. How there's ways to exploit the XP system, and how a lot of the maps that you see in Fortnite are still kind of like the same repeat concepts of zone wars, red versus blue, free for all style maps. And there's very few that kind of come out and are able to go viral and bring people to the game. And I think
I think he has hit the nail on the head there. I think individuality in those modes is very, very lacking. Don't get me wrong, some do bring the individuality, and these ones really do well. I've seen a lot of maps that are really, really good, and the experience is really, really good. But let's be honest, when you go on, how many red versus blue have you seen? It's the exact same thing with just a couple of different tweaks here and there. I mean, surely you can get done for copyright for that. You know? I mean, come on. Where's the individuality? Yeah, we still play them because they are the most fun. But yeah, people need to. I don't know if that's a Fortnite problem or if that's an us problem. As the creators of these maps, maybe the creators of the maps need to step up their game in this one, because copying what's already been done in the past, not always a win. Something unique, I do feel, will have its player base. So we do need to step it up there, but I don't think it's Fortnite's issue. I do feel it's more the creator issue.
The important thing when it comes to these maps, when it comes to creative, is to bring people to Fortnite.
Yes.
And right now, no map really does that.
No.
Besides, every once in a while, you'll have a map like, for example, the Squid Game map, which I'm not sure if they were allowed to use the Squid Game IP or not. That's a whole other story. But the Squid Game map brought people to the game. The only up map brought people to Fortnite. It's bringing outside people to download the game to actually make the game go viral. But there's only a few handful of maps that have managed to do that.
Yeah.
And some maps out there maybe have potential, but don't ever really get to see the light of day.
Yeah.
But I got sidetracked a bit. So far, I've fought a couple more real players, but a huge problem right now in the community, and it has been a problem for a while, is the amount of bots in the game. And the reason why this is only going to get worse unless it is addressed is because Fortnite keeps adding new modes. The more modes they add, the more spread out the players are, right? We knew that was going to be a thing.
I can see where he's coming from. If they want to fill out the lobbies, they're going to have to put more bots in. That's fair enough. I get that. But surely there's enough players in these games overall to fill. It just means you're going to have less lobbies. Maybe less lobbies is what they need, not more bots. I don't quite know how the lobbies and the bots kind of work from a mechanic point of view. I didn't do the coding for it, so I'm not aware of how they look for those kind of things. But I think if there are too many bots, probably because there are too many lobbies, you limit the amount of lobbies, you're going to have to limit the amount of bots. In theory, that's how I would see it.
But Fortnite has millions of players every single day. There are millions of people who play this game. There are millions of people who are playing at any given moment.
Yep.
Right now, 1 to 3 million, depending on the time.
Yeah.
So they have the player count, but with everything split up amongst regions and with the amount of modes we are getting between Fortnite, Reload, OG, LTMs, creative maps, Lego, Racing, Festival, all of that, and more projects that are coming out, ballistics and so on. They are filling the lobbies with more and more bots. Yeah. And I don't know what kind of data they have that shows that the bots are helping keeping players on the game.
I would like to see the data myself.
Might be in the minority here. A lot of people don't even know they're fighting bots. I've seen them myself.
I don't know.
I've seen really bad players, family.
A lot of the time, I don't know. I just, at first, when I started, even up until about 2 years ago, I couldn't distinguish a bot from a real player. I really couldn't. Now I can. It's a bit obvious now. You got two bots trying to shoot each other, and they're missing, and they're not really getting anywhere. They're clearly bots. But if they're not shooting somebody else, it's kind of hard to tell. Still,
members who are fighting on Fortnite, they're going against bots, and they think they're fighting real players.
Yeah.
So we really don't know.
We don't. Sometimes
bots
you don't.
could be the reason Fortnite is still alive. I don't. But I will say this: a lot of people are not happy. Even casual players who are not very sweaty, not very good at the game, are not happy with the amount of AI that they are fighting in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. But then again, yours, I think it's, I think a lot of the time they did it to even at the skill level of players, but I think adding in bots was not the way to go. You know, I think a lot of people should look at this, the stats of individual players, understand that maybe they should bring in a skill based level. I know a lot. They obviously had the rank modes and everything for skill based, but not everybody plays rank. You know, let's be honest, rank is very, very tough for most players, including myself. So maybe some form of skill system where it looks at your information in the career and kind of rates your skill level by that might be an idea that they may want to look into.
Right now, I'm playing at night. It's like 9 p.m. my time, Central. There should, I mean, it's spring break. There should be more real people that I'm facing. I'm playing the main mode, Chapter 6 solos. But half of my kills are not even real players. They're not even real.
I had noticed that in the video.
And this is something that's very tricky for them because I understand the reason for bots.
Yeah, me too.
And there's been times where I've sat here and said, hey, bots are a necessary evil.
Yeah.
It helps new players.
Yeah.
But it is at a point now when I look at the content creators
may have gone
in
too
the
far
scene,
with it.
the YouTubers, and listen, I'm not saying that we matter that much, but that's the community that I know. It's the people that I play this game with. So for me, from a personal perspective, I will speak on it.
An OG's perspective. But not a bad perspective. Don't get me wrong, not a bad perspective, but not everybody's perspective. But yeah, in this case, I am agreeing with what he's saying.
People don't really have a lot of content to make out of Fortnite, even though we're getting all these updates.
I'm sorry, I gotta disagree with you on that one. I gotta disagree. The fact that they're getting so many updates will constantly give us an endless supply of topics to do videos on. Hell, I'm doing the video on this. We'll always manage to find something to do a video on. I think a lot of our streaming possibly is going to be a bit on the repetitive side. I acknowledge that, but that's where the creator themselves need to step it up and be a lot more entertaining. Me included. Me included in that. So, but I don't feel that there's a lack of possibility for content. I feel there's maybe a possibility for a lack of creativity. We just need to use our brains a little. I do feel we have that in us. So, not putting anybody down here, but maybe we do need to step it up if Sypher's saying this. Maybe.
The big thing is that the content feels fake. The fights feel fake. You get the new weapon, you want to try it against some real players, and you're not even really getting to do that.
I stream a lot of the stuff that I do now. Just recently started streaming, so whenever I'm trying a new weapon, it's usually against somebody in game or against a bot. So this, I'll be honest, I have to disagree. You can choose to do it against a friend, but I think that's more of a choice than something that you have to do. I do feel that's more of a choice to make than a forced decision.
The wins also do not feel like they used to because of these bots. So that excitement around the content as a result is also down from a viewer.
If you know for a fact that there's about 80% of the player base is all bots, then yes. But even then, it's how your mindset is. If you're not concentrating on that and you're just concentrating on the fact that you got the win, I don't think it takes from the win. But if you concentrate on the fact that everyone you went up against was a bot, then yeah, possibly. But I think that's more of a state of mind than a problem.
Perspective from people watching the game when they're watching their favorite casual creator make content and play the game, they're not as excited because there's not as much risk, there's not as much at stake in any regular match.
There isn't. Not for the OGs. But this is why I feel the stuff that I do is very different. Because I'm not an OG. I'm not a pro by any means. I'm not that great. I do all right at the game. I got decent stats, but I'm an average player. So whenever I play the game, it's not like watching Ninja where there's almost a 90% guarantee that you're gonna be seeing him destroy people and win. Next game, destroy people, win. Destroy people, win. Destroy people, win. It's on repeat. There's an element of is this gonna be the one? In my case, is this one he gonna win, or is he gonna die like he usually does? There's that element of excitement. The WWE made this mistake back in the 80s, I feel, and they resurrected it now, where they were putting their wrestlers up against jobbers. And they'd have the wrestler come in, absolutely dominate this poor guy who we didn't even know his name. We weren't even paying attention. And we thought it was great. But it didn't really entertain us because after a while, you knew exactly who was going to win. It wasn't really that exciting. So they stopped doing that and had the main wrestlers on the roster, facing each other. And this brought a lot more excitement. So, from a content point of view, this is how I do my content. I'm not the best, but I may be going up against the best. I may be going up against the worst. You don't know. It's a bit more. Every game I play is a lot more exciting from the fact that I'm not the best player in the game, and I know it. I'm fine with that. But from an OG point of view, you're usually probably going to be pretty good. Sypher's good, Ninja's good, Nick A30's good, and respect to their level of skills. However, I'd imagine content-wise, that's going to get a little stale after a while watching you win so many times.
And yeah, you have ranked mode, but ranked mode is really divided by the ranks, and not all the people that I play with are in the same rank, and not all the people I play with are trying to sweat the entire time.
I've seen that.
So, is it all doom and gloom? I really don't think so.
No.
But I think there are some key points that Epic needs to work on and focus on this year and next year to make sure that the state of the game continues to improve and we don't end up losing this community.
I think a lot, and I hate to say this, I really do, and I wish it wasn't so. But this part of this community, there are two sides to this community. One is the side where they realize it's a game and they're there to enjoy it. And then there's the others that take it way too serious and realize that if you want to create a YouTube channel, the best way to do that is to say something negative about what you're doing. And that's a bit of a shame because a lot of people are picking up and following a lot of opinions that I feel are not justified. Like a lot of people moaning about the battle pass didn't come back. Some people liked it, some people didn't. A lot of the OGs didn't like it. And this was obviously another OG opinion. But the non-OGs, they were ecstatic. It seems to be the 50-50 divide between the OGs and the non-OGs. And it's a shame because it shouldn't matter what side of that coin you're on. We should all be just one community. We're labeled as one community. We should think as one community. And that's what I always try to fight and strive to, try to bring us together. I fail at that because I don't feel that's possible. But it kind of is what it is, I'm afraid. It's a shame we're in this state. Is it the game's fault? I don't know. We do need to look at ourselves and go, is it worth complaining about? Does it bother us that much? It's amazing how many people go, oh, it's a new season. I hate the idea of this season. But they still play it. They say they're not going to play it, yet they still do. And you know you're going to. We know you're going to. But yet you put it on Fortnite. You put it on Tweet. You put it on Facebook. Put it on this, that, and the next thing. I hate the idea. This is a terrible idea. But yet you still play it. We know you're playing it. We can see you playing it. You've done it. So it didn't bother you that much. You're just making out it does, so you can... It is the chase for clout. And it's a shame. The chase for clout has ruined a lot of things. Movies, games, a lot of things. I'd say it's becoming a downfall of many industries. And we need to look at ourselves and stop this. Just because we have the freedom of speech doesn't mean we have to use it every second of the day. Think about that. Some things are not that important.
And I think this community is very important. We have been here from the very beginning of Fortnite.
They are,
community
yeah.
of people who are not just interested in playing the game casually, but interested in engaging with content.
Yeah.
Engaging with communities that surround this game.
Yeah. Like I say, I love this community. I do love this community, even though I do have a problem with a lot of the moaning and the bitching and complaining. I do have I feel this way too much of it, but I do love this community. You know, I do want to be part of this community. I want to be up there with the Cyphers and the Ninjas. And okay, I'm not ever going to be the same game level, but I hope, as entertainment wise, I hope to be up there one day. But you know, the bitching and moaning needs to stop. It really does. Just enjoy the game. It's a game. That's what games are for. They're for entertainment purposes. Not for you to find something to moan about to make videos about. We need to stop that.
That is us. That is you guys watching. You're not just a Fortnite casual player if you're watching a video of some guy talking about Fortnite. You are passionate about this game. Some of you more than others.
Some of us are, yeah.
And I do feel like this community is at risk of eventually disappearing if the content direction doesn't become, one, more serious in the sense that we need more real content updates where Fortnite is leading the charge instead of reusing and rehashing what they've done in the past.
I don't know. I think this is passing the blame here, Cypher. I hate to say it, buddy. It kind of sounds like you're passing the blame. Is the lack of good content out there because of Fortnite? Or is it because we're struggling to be entertaining enough? I don't know. Sometimes we need to look in the mirror and take accountability, dude. We might be the problem, not them. I could be wrong. Maybe they do need to do that. I don't know. But leave your opinion of that in the comment. Respectfully, I could be wrong on this. But I do slightly feel that, you know, us as a community could step up a little more. Maybe Fortnite needs to as well, but we do as well. Not all their fault, I don't feel.
Leading the charge in the sense that the reason Fortnite became a success is because they took a big risk on this building mode and put it with the biggest trend, which was battle royales, and came Fortnite from that. They need to get back to that kind of magic, that kind of sauce. The second part is making the games feel real again, making the games feel like they're impactful, that there's some weight to it, and you're fighting real players, right? Those are two huge key points that are still pain points that have not necessarily been addressed since.
Weird thing is, I may not agree with some of the reasons, but I do agree with the end result. And that's the weird thing here. I don't agree with some of the reasons from a non-OG perspective, but I do agree with the end result. So yeah, I'm with them on that one.
It's my last video, and I feel like it's very important for me to talk about it. A lot of my friends, a lot of my fellow content creators, I see them struggling. I see them struggling in even playing the game because they were there when the wins really felt like exciting, when it really mattered, and their communities were there too.
Question to you, Sypher, is that just burnout? Have you been doing this so long that possibly you're just now getting bored of it? And fine well, giving up means giving up only Fortnite, but the community you have. Maybe you feel trapped now? Is that what this is? Trapped in a situation that you feel that you might not be able to get out with? Not just yourself, obviously your friends as well. I'd imagine after 8 years, I'd possibly be feeling the same way if that's the case. But that might not be a Fortnite problem. Again, that might be something we need to look in the mirror and possibly need to sort out ourselves. You guys may be just getting bored of the same routine, Streaming, playing, coming up with a new idea that you haven't already done in the past 8 years. Burnout's a real thing, dude. Burnout's a real thing, and you know that better than anybody. So, I'd hate to see that happen. I wouldn't like to see anybody get burnout, especially Sypher. I've got a lot of time, a lot of respect for Sypher. But it sounds like you guys are starting to go through the burnout and what the hell do we do next kind of question. As far as content's concerned, you're kind of struggling for ideas because you've done it all. Not because there's a lack of it to be made, but probably because you've done it all. For newer creators, obviously like myself, there's probably a lot still to be done. But for those who've been around a long time, you've already done them all, then you're probably going to go down the same route Fortnite has and just redo the same thing you did before in the past. So you'll start seeing where they come from. But burnout's a real thing, and I'm starting to hear the sound of burnout here. Not only from yourself, but Ninja as well. Ninja's very clearly burned out from the game. And it's a shame. But after, 8 years of being in the game, maybe even longer if you started before then, it's bound to happen eventually. So, you need to rekindle that love for what you do, man. Maybe that might be the case. I don't know if that's a game problem. I think that might be a love for what you're doing problem.
And it feels like it's kind of like a shell of its former self. Not the game, but the communities around the game. One clear sign that is the case, by the way, that I'm not just yapping for the sake of yapping, is what new Fortnite content creators have blown up in the last couple of years. And I'm talking about blown up to the millions of subscribers and, hundreds of thousands of views.
I can see where he's coming from. There are some people still doing it. I think Grant is definitely doing all right. He's going to get up there, I think. There's still quite a lot of creators out there that will. But I think to get to that point, you need to be there from the beginning. Or you need to wait a hell of a lot longer. If you're anything like me, it could take a very, very, very long time before we get there. Before I get there. Or even close to that. But it took you guys a long time to get there originally as well. So, it may just be a case of that. It may just be a case of that. Gonna take a while.
Whether it's on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. There really hasn't been.
No.
You had Mr. Fresh Asian blow up back in the day. You had the X2 twins. Nowadays, the only people who really get a lot of attention, like new players that get a lot of attention, are competitive pro players. And it's really just tied to the competitive pro scene.
I get that. I don't understand why. Because if you're looking to try and get better at the game, watching a player who's the best and studying what they do, I get that. But I'd imagine that gets very, very boring when it comes to watching content, and you're gotta guarantee they're gonna win the next match, and the match after that, and the match after that, and the match after that, and possibly the match after that. You know? Uh, so I don't see those people blowing up. I'll be honest, the weird thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think a person who's not that good should be more exciting to watch than a pro. Just my opinion. Because at least you got that. There's no guarantee that they're going to win the next match. There's probably a high possibility that they're not going to win the next match. So when they do win, it's a lot more of a better celebration on your channel. You know? Your people watching celebrate more because you did win. Because it was such an uphill battle, not such a breeze that you could have done it in your sleep. You know? A lot of respect to those that have those skills. But I don't know if they're the right thing for content. But I feel a lot of the people that watch these content creators don't, because they don't know about the ones that aren't that good, they're in a stalemate. They either watch the content from the good players, or they struggle to find those that ain't, because they're not being shown in the YouTube algorithm as much. You know? They're getting there. YouTube is promoting more and more small channels, so maybe with them promoting smaller channels and, you know, people that are obviously not as good at the game as the OGs, possibly you may see an influx of people. Maybe possibly the next couple of icons are not pros, you know? They're just people that entertain, are good at entertaining in their streams. Maybe this is what they need. Maybe this is the revamp. Maybe the future is not the good player, but the average player with a great personality. And if it is, that's why I'm working on making sure that that's what I'm bringing to the table here. You know? I gotta be on game. You get I'm called Kevin Q 2.0. The reason being is because that 2.0 means it's an upgrade. You're taking the original version and making it better. When I'm on a stream, that's my mindset. I am the 2.0. I'm the upgrade. I am the better version of what you see when I'm not streaming. You know? Taking my personality and turning that volume up to 110% to the point where the speakers blow, baby. You know? That's what you're getting. Maybe that's what the next icon skins are going to be. People like that, not the pro players that win the cups. Because they may be great at the game. But some of them, let's be honest, the personality is lacking. It's not making good content. It's just sitting there watching someone silently play the game, even if they're good. Watching somebody silent, not saying anything to their chats, and not being good. And just being good at the game is not enough, is what I'm getting at. Being good at the game is not enough. And somehow I feel that it might not be the thing to watch now. Because there are plenty of creators out there that are bloody good at what they do at the game. And possibly now we're looking for personality. This might be the reason why no one has blown up recently. But that's also not a Fortnite problem. That's an us problem. That's a creator problem.
And not a lot of them are interested in even making content. So they're just really just competing and creating a fan base on the competitive side of things. You have people like Peterbot and other names that have risen up over the past few years. But when it comes to content creation, the level of exposure that is being given right now with the content being put out and level of opportunities for people to grow is almost not there. And you see that.
It isn't there. And I agree with what he's saying. But I do feel that's not a Fortnite problem. That's a us problem. That's a creator problem. We need our personality to be shining now, in my opinion, not the game itself. You know, the game is why they come, the personality is why they stay. And if people ain't staying, because your personality sucks. I hate it. As painful as it sounds, that's the way it is. You know? I'm not saying I've got a perfect personality by any means, no. There are people who are going to love what I do. There are people who are going to hate everything about me. I expect that. But, you know, that's what I'm getting at. I don't feel it's Fortnite's problem. I think it's ours. You know? I agree with the point that he's saying that the problem's there. But that is more of a us problem than them.
See that? Because there aren't new faces coming to the game. There's only big creators that are slowly moving on from the game. You have people like Ninja taking a break from Fortnite. You have people streaming less and less, creating content less and less.
This is what I was saying about the burnout. I feel Ninja was a prime example of this burnout. You know? So used to doing things the way he did before in the past. For as long as you're doing it, you're going to burn out. Even the biggest streamers, I don't think, is immune to it. And I think you saw that with Ninja. One thing I've always said about Ninja is he's a smart guy. But I think he realized that the only way he was going to get content out that a lot of people were going to go viral for is if he spent most of that time complaining about things. Because when you complain about things, people go, oh, he's a bit of a whiny baby, this, that, and the next thing. But look at the amount of people focused on him while that was happening. The man's not dumb. He does know how to get, clicks. But I feel now he's getting the clicks for all the wrong reasons. I don't feel this is his true personality that we're focusing on now. This is why he's getting a bad rep. He's losing a lot of fans because he's showing a side of him that I don't feel really does exist. I don't feel it's really there, man. I don't think you're that bothered about the things that you're moaning about. Maybe you need to let people know. But then again, you're not going to get the kind of, big views if you don't act that way. So I get why you're doing it. But I don't think it's you, man. I really don't think it's you.
And I do fear that if things don't get addressed, if we don't start seeing content that actually brings people and brings excitement back to Fortnite, where Fortnite is, back to being the leader of content creation and adding new things, this community will, I'm not gonna say it's gonna die, but this community will just keep on dwindling down.
I don't think it will dwindle down. I think it will change. Old Fortnite fans will leave. New Fortnite fans will come in. I think the player base will always stay the same numbers. But I just think it's going to be a very bigger, a different demographic than what it was when it first started. And I think the OGs are probably the ones that are more upset now because they feel that their place in Fortnite community kind of feels like it's kind of dwindling away. That's what I'm hearing here. The newer player base might be the ones that are taking over the game, and the old ones are not liking it very much. I get that. I do get that. But we do need to live simultaneously in the same Fortnite world that we're living in, the same community. We need to learn to accept the other side's opinion, which I think is the problem here. OGs are not happy everything's changing. Newer players are loving it because it's changed. Something to think about, Sypher. Something to think about, man. Like I say, all the respect in the world for what you do. There's a lot of things we do need to take into consideration.
But I want to remind you guys one more time, that so far, from what I've seen, Fortnite is listening.
They are listening.
They might act very slow on the changes.
They do.
Some of them do take time and are longer than others to implement.
They could be a lot more vocal about the changes they're making. There's a lot of things that I feel they should have stepped up and let people know what they're doing, instead of having leakers and content creators guess what it is they're doing. I feel they do fail from that point of view to some degree. Like, obviously, the battle pass is coming back. That nearly tore the Fortnite community in half. And I mean, ripped it apart. And it was only because Fortnite wouldn't step up and tell us what it was they were actually going to do. Times like that where I feel they need to step up the communication with us a bit. And then let us know so we don't tear each other's heads off in a YouTube battle. No, we don't want that. So,
but Fortnite has been listening.
they have been
I
listening.
see it from the last video to this video. A lot has changed.
Yeah, I agree
But
with
like
that.
I said, there are some very important things that cannot be ignored for much longer. And I hope you guys agree with me. I hope you guys are able to comment down below in a constructive way
I agree
how
with it
you
from
feel about the game. And hope
I agree with it from if you're an OG. I can see where you're coming from, and I agree with that. If you're an OG, I would agree with that. From a non-OG, I don't see it as much of a problem as you would. But that's the other side of the coin. You know, that's the other side of the coin talking. So, yeah.
hopefully we see some more positive change and some more strides towards making this game
Is the
best
positive
game it
change
possibly can be in the year of 2025 and
more
moving
directed
forward.
to OGs?
Thank you guys so much
or
for
the newer
watching. I
players?
hope you guys
You know, is the change to focus more back on the OGs again, or the main player base, which I hate to say it, is the newer player base. You know, that's the true question. But you know, there you go. Anyway, he had a lot to say. He had a lot of opinions. I had a lot to say on this opinion as well. I feel this was a very good video. We got in depth with a lot of stuff. I have a massive respect for Sypher, so don't ever think I'm sitting over here crapping on his videos. I'm certainly not by any means. But a lot of people had a lot of opinions on this, and I wanted to get out mine because I do feel that all the opinions that everyone else is hearing are all OG opinions. We do also need to hear what the non-OGs are saying. And that's where I feel my voice is now coming in. So, if you enjoyed this video and you're still here at the end, congratulations and thank you for watching all the way to the end. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button because we do this kind of stuff. Join us for the live streams because the live streams are a lot of fun. They're not usually as serious as this. We do have a lot of fun here. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. So, from Sypher, where is he? He's on this side. From Sypher and me, and Katana. See you guys later.